Hello everyone and welcome to the latest Handyman in the Field. Today we have something a little bit different. I decided I'm going to try to do something besides just sitting here talking to you guys one-on-one like we have been doing. So this week we are going to have a new topic. I think it's important to kind of dive into what I use on a regular basis. Specifically, I'm going to talk today about the tools that I would never leave. I would never show up to a job site without. However, I will give you a quick overview of the inside of my truck, which I will cover on a future episode, and dive a little bit more into what else I drive around with on a regular basis. But I'm going to specifically dive into what is in my main toolbox. But before we get into that, I want to show you guys what is actually out there in my truck. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick view. So here we go. All right. So basically the whole idea is that I wanted to be able to have everything in my vehicle that I could typically have. Right now, I actually recently got a new vehicle, a new truck. I have a bed cover that is yet to be installed on the truck that I have right now. But basically the whole idea is that the back seat is essentially all the tools that I need. So we got drop cloth, ladder. You see some pack outs over there. Like I said, we'll get into those on a future episode. I always have the blower and the vacuum. And then that Milwaukee bag that you see there is actually got a bunch of cleaning stuff, rags, wipes, dustpan, broom, things like that. And then I have down here a crate that typically carries all of the stuff that I have to have specifically for the day. If I need specific tools that I don't normally drive around with, they go in the tote. Those paper towels are really just there until I use them up because I have had them for so long. This is the bag that I typically take with me into the job. It's just a Milwaukee tote. There's nothing special about it. It's just got a couple pockets. But the idea is that any of the stuff that I need, instead of bringing the entire toolbox, which is right here, which we're going to cover, I put whatever I need specifically in this bag and then bring this bag. It's light. I don't have to worry about it doing any damage to the customer's floor or anything like that. I probably need to get a new one just because I got some spray foam on it here. It's kind of messed up in a couple of spots, but it works. It's nothing fancy. The inside of it's pretty dirty, but it is what it is. But today we're specifically talking about, so let's dive into this toolbox. All right, so this toolbox is a Milwaukee pack out. I think it's the 16-inch. I can't remember because it's been a little bit of time. I've had longer versions. At one point I had the 24-inch version of this. And then I used to use that when I drove around in a Traverse. Once I switched over to a truck, the 24-inch didn't fit it didn't fit depth-wise from seat to seat in the truck. So I ended up getting this one, which is smaller. Like I said before, I do not actually bring this into job sites. This is my primary toolbox that stays in the truck, but it does come out in and out a lot because I do use my truck for personal use as well as business. So everything that you saw in the back of the truck, I actually can take out on the weekends and it's all ready to go. So let's start with this pouch. So right here, there's a zipper pouch in there. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing in that pouch. Here we've got the Milwaukee, I believe it's like, here it says right here, the 3/8-inch installation drill driver. I love this thing because it's nice and small. I can pop on a battery, does everything I need it to do, and I don't have to worry about it being too big. Typically, I would never use this to drill into tile or concrete or anything like that because it's just not that great. As far as, for those tougher materials, but for what I need it to be, it does perfect job for driving and drilling simple things all the time. So there's that. Next up, we've got this box right here, which is a Milwaukee bit box. I have completely customized this box to be what I need it to be. So as you can see, on one side, we've got a bunch of drill bits. These are wood bits. Here we have some tile bits. And then I've got concrete bits up here. I've got a countersink bit here. And then we've got all kinds of different bits. I got a drywall bit. I've got flathead. I got different size star ones. Phillips. Down here, there's a couple socket ones. There's an extender, a couple extensions for normal ones, a magnetic extension, or a guide, I should say. The magnetic one's down here. Some replacement bits. I always keep a couple of the stars and the PH2s, the Phillips ones, always in the box because I always could end up using more. Most of these up here I do not end up using unless they're specialty, like the T30 or the T15. I don't use those a lot. So what I typically do is, well, I'll pull those out, stick it in one of the extensions, and just leave it at that. But almost every bit that's in here, there has been a rhyme and a reason with it being in here. I customized this specifically because Milwaukee has the ability to put these trays in different slots, as you can see here. And because of that, it made it so that I could double up some of them like I did with the bits here. And then I could put the smaller bits up here. So while they sell a bunch of bit boxes and things like that, and ones that have spots specifically designed, I wanted to be able to have everything inside of one case, and that was very important. So that was one of the reasons why I specifically used this one and custom built it to be used whatever I need. So there's that. Let me go on. I've got standard hammer, framing the hammer, nothing special there. Then I've got this light. This is technically a little bit newer of a addition. I haven't had this in here that long, but I've had a bunch of lights. You can see there's a flashlight here. It's just a pen light. I've got this light right here, which is rechargeable. This one does a great job, but the battery in it's not great. This one, however, I've learned the battery on this one's it lasts a lot longer than that other one. So I've decided to start using this for like faucet replacements, drain repairs, things like that are underneath the sink. And it's worked out very well. If you're specifically looking at which one it is, it's the red lithium Milwaukee rechargeable rover pivoting floodlight. It also has this clip on it, so you could hook it onto certain things. It's also magnetic as well, so you can use the magnetic aspect if you were using it. If you had something that was metal. It does have the capabilities of charging with inside of the actual the housing. It has a charger port here, but you can also pop out the batteries and then swap out the red lithium batteries in there. So there's that. All right, so what else do we have in here? I've got a standard utility knife here. This is just the standard fastback Milwaukee. Definitely need a new blade in that one. So there's that. I've got this one. This is the hook one. I do not use this very often. To be honest, there's only a couple of occasions. It's mostly carpet, demoing carpet or cutting shingles. Those are about the only few times I've actually used this one. So there's that. That goes up there. Like I said, I've got the pen light. So that's basically this side. Then I've got these pouches. We're going to dive into these pouches in just a second. All right, so I've got two different pouches. They're both from Husky. This is a little bit bigger than that other one. The bigger one, I keep this stuff in. The smaller one, I keep this stuff in. So let's go over this. I'll be honest with you, I don't typically use a lot of this stuff on a regular basis, mostly because I either have other kits that are specifically using this stuff or I have another one. So I've got a socket adapter, which honestly, this is probably the third or fourth one I have in my entire truck, so I probably don't need to keep that. So this is a stud finder that has the level built into it, magnetic. I don't use this very often, but it's more of like a backup in case my normal stud finder that I have, I happen to not have batteries for it, so I have that. I've got this tester, which you'll see in a second. I already have another tester. This is, again, just a backup in case I can't get that one to go. This is the grounding adapter, so that way if I needed to check an outlet that didn't have the ground point in it, I could at least check the outlet to see if it's wired correctly, even if it doesn't have a ground. And then this is a socket one. So if I was trying to determine where the socket was where the light was, you'll see in a sec. Well, I'll just show you real quick. I've got the Klein circuit finder, this guy right here, but this has to be able to be plugged into a ground outlet. So the only way you could get kind of around that with this transmitter is to have this plugged into this, which then plugs into this, and then you could try to find the circuit that this goes to by using the circuit finder here. So that's why I have these, but I typically don't need to use, honestly haven't probably used these for over a year just because of what I've been doing. I haven't needed them, but you know, it's there. So these items right here are specifically found inside of the small pouch. So then shifting over to the larger pouch, we've got a razor blade scraper, just very simple. This is actually an extra one because I have a couple of other scrapers as well. I have extension bit. Again, probably don't need that one because I already have one. I've got the Klein Tools magnetizer, which again, I do not use this very often. I've got a small pack of razor blades specifically for the scraper. I've got this right-handed, it's a flathead on one side and a Phillips on the other. This gets into small little spaces. I've needed this for a couple of different times. And then finally, I've got the kind of like the alligator, I think it's called an alligator. I can't remember, but basically the idea is that it'll fit any kind of thing. I've used this a couple of times to screw in, hooks and eyes. This does a great job of just molding to whatever you put in front of it, and then it'll twist it so that way you can tighten those things up. So that's what this is. I've had this for a while. I think this is actually my second or third one because one of them I think I broke by having too many. The problem is that the springs in here, they tend to go bad if you're using an impact. So if you end up getting one of these, don't use an impact. So all of those items are in the larger of the Ziplocs, or not Ziploc, the zipper bags that go into the main pouch with the drill driver and the hammer. So let's get to the sides next. All right, so on this side, like I said earlier, we've got this, the Rover Milwaukee light. It's rechargeable, but like I said, the battery life on that's not great. This is the tape measure that I have right now. I typically have a crescent tape measure, but I left that at a job site that I'm going back to in a few days, so I need to grab that. So this is just here for the sake of being here. But the pouch, the bag itself does have a clip specifically for that. So that's what I use. Obviously, you use it for it. I got a really small magnetic lever or level here. This is great. It comes in handy. It's got magnetic on this side and that side, so you can try to figure out what you need to in a magnetic situation. It works great for pipes and things like that. And then switching over to the other side, we've got a Pica marker. I love this marker because it specifically has the really, really tight tip, so you can reach into small holes and mark them. Specifically with the, when you're trying to get into a deep hole. Then you've got Milwaukee Ink Zol, which is just, it's like a Sharpie. I've got this really fine ruler that you can take really, really close measurements. This is perfect if you're trying to identify a specific size of a screw or something like that. Or specifically, like I've run into this problem where for furniture assembly and things like that. Well, I don't do a lot of furniture assembly now. That is typically what the time it comes into handy. This one right here needs a new blade, but it's just an X-Acto knife. I need a longer blade because typically the time I use this is when I'm using this for cutting ceiling tiles. So there's that. We've got the Pica pencil on this side. I love the Pica stuff. But I have a tendency to lose them a lot. The clips on them, they're great, but the top falls out and then it just disappears and you can't find it, and that sucks. And then I've got a carabiner here that just has a clip. This has got Velcro that I can cut. So if I was doing a TV mount or something like that, I could easily cut a piece to use this for cord management. I also have zip ties in my truck, but I like this a little bit better than the zip ties and then just a quick roll of masking tape. And then I have this real small tape measure, but it's specifically measuring, it's got centimeters on it too, so that way you can get a different type of measurement if you're not, measuring in standard. And then finally, we've got the vessel. This is a nice little motorized screwdriver. It fits perfectly. You could put other bits in it. This is the bit that came with it, but you can get other bits that are essentially any of the bits that fit in any of the other quick lock stuff will fit in here, so that's great. It's rechargeable, forward, reverse, got this little flashlight on it. It works out perfectly for what I needed to do. This is my second one. I did have a problem with the one of the other ones that I had. It completely blew open because I think I had put too much pressure on it. It does have a torque control where it will not over torque. So there's that. But that's basically this side. So let's get to the other side, which is chock full of tools. Now, I didn't show this before, but I'm going to show this real quick. I forgot to say, when I unzippered this pocket up here, typically I have extra business cards in there because I normally keep close to 50 to 100 business cards up in the front of my truck. But when it comes to having extras, it's always nice. I keep forgetting to refill this. This zipper pocket down here, I actually have magnets for my business. I barely ever give out those magnets, but if someone makes a comment about how they lost my business card, then I give them the magnet when I'm on a return trip. So getting back over to this side, there's a couple different things that you can see right away. We've got the Klein digital circuit breaker finder, the receiver and the transmitter. This also obviously doubles as just a circuit or a outlet tester as well. We've got the Weiss, Crescent Weiss scissors. These things are great because they'll essentially cut through anything. While this nut does come loose occasionally, just requires a little bit of tightening up and then it's good to go. So there's those. I haven't found anything that I can't cut through except for metal. These aren't great for metal or sheet metal or anything like that, but there's that. There's a special pouch in the Milwaukee toolbox specifically for a drywall jab saw. So I've got the drywall jab saw. I don't use this very often because I typically will use my multi-tool for this instead, but there is a nice pouch to keep everything from getting cut from that in there. So I'm just going to slide that back in there. Over here I've got a center hole punch, just very simple. And then we've got a nail driver, spring-loaded nail driver. This is great for trim nails. I use that a lot. I have a couple of more in my truck as well. I've got a nice little torpedo level, magnetic. This is coming handy. This is actually a new addition because I had one that was, I believe it was DeWalt. It was just because of something I had from a while ago and I lost it. You're going to learn as you progress through your career that tools, they have a tendency to get lost and you got to get replacements. So there's that. And then we've got scraper. I've got a couple of scrapers, but this is the main one that I use, which is actually has the top over here broke. I have probably 4 of these in a drawer over there, brand new, in case this one cracks, because I've had that happen. But these Purdy scrapers are great. They can pretty much do all kinds of different things, but I like that it closes back up and is contained. So there's that. We got a crescent wrench. We got the Knipex adjustables. I like these specifically because they do not have any teeth. They're actually flat. They work perfectly if you're trying not to scuff anything up because there's no teeth. These are great for gripping because they have teeth, but sometimes, especially on plumbing things, fixtures, you don't want to scratch them up. Got an adjustable crescent wrench there. And then we've got an awl, which I typically will use this for only a couple of different things. When I'm trying to verify, if I have an issue with my stud finder and my stud finder is not being able to find the stud, or I'm having a lot of like spoof studs, as I like to call them, or ghost studs, and you think this thing is perfect to stab it into the wall and make sure that you're actually in something and not just stabbing into drywall and there's nothing behind it. I have run into a couple of houses that have plaster. You have to make sure you're actually getting into something besides just the plaster, and the normal stud finder that I typically use has a tendency to not always pick up on that. So this is like a backup. It's just there in case I need it. We've got a voltage tester. I used to have a Klein one, worked out perfectly until I lost it, and then I found it. But I've been using this one since. This is from Milwaukee. I also have a pair of wire cutters. These are really, really great. I don't use them very often, but these are amazing. They're vamp pliers, and basically their teeth on them are so incredibly strong that when they're great for extracting screws that are broke. If you have a screw that is, you broke the head on it and you're trying to pull it, you get a grip on this, it will 100% pull it out. These things are amazing. They're not cheap by any means, but they're worth the money. I say that they're not cheap, but it's really, they're not cheap in comparison to like normal pliers, because the teeth on them are amazing. I mean, like, where do you see teeth that are like that? It's crazy. They're great. So definitely, also they are spring loaded, so they have this cover to keep them from opening up. So great pair of pliers. When you need them, they're perfect. So there's those. And we've got wire cutters, needle nose pliers. This isn't the worst pair, but you can see real close that I've had plenty of situations where the metal came in contact with the live wire, which wasn't intentional, but it has happened and left its nice little marks on there. So there's that. I've got a chisel. I've got a couple more chisels in my truck, but this is the main one that I use specifically for doors. If I need to make adjustments to striker plates and things like that, I use that. I've got this Milwaukee, I normally use this as my flathead, my general flathead. There's a smaller flathead in there as well. And there's other bits, but most of the time it's just flatheads. But it comes out, this has got a adjustment on it, so that way you can, torque it without having to worry about the direction. So it'll turn without having to actually turn. But I haven't really used that recently just because I don't typically use this. The only time I really use this is I will pull the bits out and use the bits in the vessel that I have, or I will use this for trim plates and things like that for electrical, but that's about it for that. And then other things I've got in here. I've got a simple Allen set, Allen keys. So here's the thing with these. If you've ever used Allen keys, this becomes an absolute pain in the butt if you're trying to get really, really close to something, like you're trying to get a towel rod real close and you're trying to get it in, or you're trying to get a knob on a storm door tight. This can be a pain. So I have this, and I generally use it for general things that are Allen wrench related, but I have a special set in another toolbox in my truck that has almost like, I think it's like 40 something bits that fit into a screwdriver like this, so you can get real close without having to worry about that. So there's that. In the bottom of here, I have a cat's eye and a small pry bar. It's the most general things that I use when it comes to pulling out nails on different projects, but I've never had any issues with them. You can see that they have gotten their fair use of, They got plenty of wear and tear on them. These pry bars, this one has been really, really good. It's the perfect little size. Early on when I had this one, I had to be careful because this edge right here would constantly slice. So be careful on that. And then outside of that, I've got this, it's almost impossible to pull out, but it's a folding blade saw that takes hacksaw or reciprocating saw blades. And what I have in there is specifically, it's a metal blade. So if I needed to cut, let's say, toilet bolts, flange bolts, I could easily get in there with this. It would be a pain because I would typically just use my multi-tool, but it's It folds up, it's nice. You can put in different types of blades, but I have a metal blade in there because I already have other blades for other things. So that's the end of this side of the toolbox. I did just some items that I used to have. Oh, here's a random rusty screw, because you always need one of those. I did used to have a laser measurer that was on the other side of the toolbox. However, I took that out recently because I haven't been using it as much, and I figured if I needed it, I could just bring it with. And I honestly haven't had a situation where it's come up yet. So that is the toolbox. All right, so that's my main toolbox. There's a lot in it, but there's a lot of stuff that's not in it. So if you guys want to see more of what my tools are on a daily basis, that is, on the other side, I have a set of pack-out drawers. I have a socket set. I have a box that has a bunch of small hardware pieces, and I also have another box that just has tools that you kind of need in a pinch, but they're not commonly used as much as some of the stuff in here. And honestly, going through here, there's some stuff that I'm not using all that often. I haven't used that, the retractable or folding hacksaw that with the blades. I haven't used that probably 3-4 years. It's found a home and it's sitting there, and I don't need to put anything else in that spot. So it's got its spot. But I have a lot of other things that I always drive around with, but this is what I'm typically grabbing from on a normal basis. I have a 2-foot level. I have a 4-foot level that sits in the back of my truck as well. I have a straight ruler, to make straight cuts and things like that. If I was doing ceiling tiles, that's sitting in the back of my truck. Drop cloths, vacuum, things like that. The other toolbox and the pack-out stack we'll get to maybe in a couple of weeks, and we'll go over what I have got in that. There's a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, things that, again, I do use on a regular basis, but things that are not as important or as useful as what you saw here. So these are probably the most useful tools. That's not to say that you can't get by with less tools than this. This is just after years. I've had this specific setup in this box for just about, it's almost been about 3 years since I set this box up. I went from like I said, the larger pack-out box down to this size box, and some of the tools I had in the original 24-inch one, they ended up migrating into a different box because I just didn't use them as often, and I was able to add that pack-out stack, which I didn't have in my previous setup. So love to hear if this is what you guys have, if there's anything that you have that you think is super important that you should have that's not here. Like I said, there are certain things that I also have that are just not here, but they're just in a different toolbox on the opposite side of the truck. This is just what I use on a day-to-day basis, and almost in every situation. There's occasionally something that I grab from the other side, but it's mostly this stuff. So with all that being said, I appreciate you guys watching the latest Handyman in the Field. If you guys would, be so kind and subscribe to see more videos, be sure to check out This Week in the Field, which is my weekly recap of all the jobs that I have done for the week, including pricing breakdowns and how much money I actually made for the week. In addition to that, like, subscribe, leave comments. Those are always greatly appreciated. If you guys leave any comments, I will be sure to, to respond accordingly. So with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed a look inside my toolbox. We'll see you guys next time.